It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Okay, TGIF, we made it. It is the Friday edition of the Patrick Johnson Show that gets you to the weekend and the final open week for ECU football. They will return to action Thursday against FAU, where the next two games, according to all of the metrics, the Pirates highly favored for the next two Thursdays. But you got to play the game. Let us welcome in Philip the Ref Pilkington and Joey Jet himself, Joe Sampson. By the way, Chris Hughes will be with us final weekend in the East for the high school football season. Of course, it's been expanded to accommodate the high schools in the western part of the state that are still dealing with the effects of Hurricane Helene devastating their communities. So a bye week next week for all eastern high school football teams, really the majority of the state. And then they'll pick things up with the playoffs the following week. Pilk will be on the call on 94.3 The Game coming up at 7 o'clock tonight from Lil, Washington, as the Pam Pack and the Chargers, Washington and Aiden Grifton, play for a conference championship. But more on that with Chris Hughes. We say hello to Joe Sampson. Joe, how's it going?
It's going great. I can't lie to you. It is a phenomenal day to be Joey football on a victory Friday for the New York Jets. Devontae Adams catches a touchdown. Garrett Wilson catches 2 touchdowns. And if we had a field goal kicker, we'd be sitting here at the top of the conversation in the AFC. So the vibes are back. Cayenne pepper and water. Might have to drink that in the second segment at some point because the fountain of youth is back and the Jets are back.
Pilk, you're probably smarting a little bit because your Carolina Hurricanes took Pilk's Boston Bruins to the woodshed last night.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was rough. Thank goodness I had to do Coach Logan's show, and it goes till 7 because I just had the Patrick Johnson show. It ends at 6. I probably would have tried to get over there because there were some cheap tickets. There were cheap tickets all around the country with it being Halloween. You could have gotten into the Canes game for $25. You could have got into the Jets game for $12 to an NFL game. That sounds like a Panthers game when it's cold and raining. But no, a nice crisp night in East Rutherford, New Jersey, $12, man. Halloween's the day to go to games. I remember I went to a Duke football game one time for $14.92. We bought the tickets on Columbus Day, but it was for a Halloween night game, and that's why they were so cheap.
Thanks to Pilk for hosting the show yesterday. I was out of town on some personal matters and actually early voted yesterday also. And I asked the person there about, turnout at that polling location. And they said it had been brisk to crowded with the exception of Halloween. While it had been steady, yesterday there were really no lines to speak of, and it was more of a trickle than, a sea of humanity or a steady stream of folk. So there you go. So, yeah, Halloween seemed like the day. Now, the problem of Halloween, and I may be foreshadowing things here a little bit, was, as I understand it yesterday in Greenville, if you had been issued a license, you decided it would be good to get on the road. So there you go. That is the deal there. All right. Pirates win. Holy mackerel. They defeated Temple in a convincing way. Joey football. About a week out from that homecoming victory. Let's get your post-1 week post-mortem of what happened.
Well, the first thing you have to talk about is the offense. They looked every bit of the part they were supposed to, all the expectations we had for a lot of passing downs, for a lot of offense, for a lot of yards, for a lot of completions. And then you had a lot of guys who had a lot of yak, a lot of yards after the catch. And that's exactly what this offense has been needing. It's been stagnant. It's been kind of stuck in the mud as far as getting guys in front of the ball, putting them in space, and allowing them to be playmakers. Now, Obviously, there's a large contingency of Pirate fans that are going to tell me, but Joey football, it's just Temple. Well, Temple tough ain't so tough anymore, but it's still a win. It's hard to win in this league. It's a great thing. Blake Harrell's first win as an interim head coach. It's his first win as a head coach as well, first of many, I'm sure. So just excited to see what it's going to be this week. Obviously, FAU is going to be a tough test. Tom Herman's an experienced coach. Obviously, took him to the woodshed last year in Boca, but it's always a different night when it's in the boneyard.
You know, the thing, Joe, to me, and you first reported this on our pregame show, was that Coach Harrell was doing things with cornhole at the team dinner. They weren't divided up by positions or offense, defense. I mean, everybody, it was one big sort of happy family. Do you really think that, I mean, it didn't contribute to the win, but I mean, did it maybe contribute to the vibe to loosen these guys up going into Saturday?
It definitely does. All the guys in the source, or my sources in the program, have all told me it felt like a bowl game, which means that it's kind of free going, easy, relaxed. You're not necessarily as worried about assignment, alignment, and all those different things that you get so in your head about on a Friday night before a game. So it just gives you a chance to go out there, play free, realize that it is a game. As much as we're paying these kids these days, it's still a game. You play it for fun. It's the same game that these 6-year-olds are playing down at the Greenville Saints and the Cary Chargers in my hometown. So it hasn't changed anything. It's still a simple game played by complicated people. So you have to go out there, remember that. And you did this because you love the game. And that's why you wanted to play. And then winning is so much sweeter once you get that fun aspect of it. But winning cures everything.
Let me ask you both a question here. Hindsight is 2020. Should Caton Hauser have been the starter from day one?
I think it's difficult.
Not everybody at once. Not everybody at once here.
I just want to show respect to the great Philip Pilkington, the voice.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I was going to let you go first and keep the rotation the same.
I appreciate that. I think it's hindsight's always 2020. You said that. I think there should have been a shorter leash. I think after what looked, I don't want to say disheveled in the ODU win, but it's hard to bench a guy after a win when you win like that. But the turnovers were always a situation when it came to Garcia. I thought Hauser was the guy coming out of spring ball. I said that on air multiple times. I jumped on it when it was in preseason. Hauser had that X factor. He was the guy that wins you games. Jake Garcia wasn't going to lose you games. And you're seeing it now with how the offense flows, with how his arm is. He's got a live arm. Yeah, Jake Garcia loved to throw the deep ball, loved to do these things. Hauser knows where to put it on these intermediate throws, on these spot throws. And Philip alluded to it a little bit last week when it came to his development in these intermediates, but he had a couple tight windows on some digs against cover 3 that I was like, okay, all right, I see you. And then obviously if you can get the ball to the playmakers in space, you're going to be successful. But it looks like JDB has a much better feel with Caton Hauser at quarterback than he did with Garcia.
Pilk, maybe not the big arm like Garcia downfield, but a more accurate arm.
Yeah, exactly, which is weird because you would have thought that Mike Houston would have went with the conservative option. We've always talked about how Mike has been the more conservative coach, so you would have thought he would have went with Caton Hauser because, again, he doesn't have the big-time arm strength. So, yes, hindsight's 2020, but what they thought, from what I kind of get, is that, yes, Garcia had a little bit of lower floor, but they kind of liked that whole demeanor he brought. If you've ever met the two guys, Jake kind of walks in and lights up a room. And that's kind of what you want out of your quarterback. Caton is that guy who you can have that deep conversation with one-on-one, but maybe isn't the center of attention in the huddle. And so that's kind of where they were, I think, kind of, from what I understand, ended up being the deciding factor because they were so close when it actually came to running the offense. So that's why they went with him. And yeah, hindsight's 2020, but it kind of looks like right now that was the wrong thing to do. But at the end of the day, this was one of those things where we knew at some point this year both guys were going to get a shot, unless the guy that they gave it to first just went out there and all of a sudden you blink and rate no. And so, you know, it's hard to answer the question with any definitive answers, but yeah, I mean, right now you would say, yeah, they probably should have Caton, but you know, who knows? We'd be in even the situation we are now. Maybe Caton wasn't ready yet. I don't know. We weren't at practice.
All right, Patrick Johnson show here on a Friday. That's Philip Pilkington. We got Joey football, Joe Sampson with us here. Chris Hughes coming up, talking the high school scene a little later on in the show. Get you to the weekend edition here. I'm sort of wondering too, and maybe one is the mechanism of the other. But, boy, there seemed to be a lot more of spreading the ball around last Saturday, Joe.
Definitely, and I'm glad you brought it up. They tried to get the ball in space, and that's something they've kind of failed to do the last couple weeks as far as trying to artificially create matchups. Obviously, Casey Kelly doesn't play against Temple. You're concerned about that, big question mark. And DeZero and Tyler Savage both stepped up in major ways. So hats off to the tight ends as always, especially after National Tight Ends Day. Didn't get to celebrate it, but it's okay. So I
Wait a
have to
minute.
give a
Whoa.
shout out.
When
where the
was
shout out is due.
National Tight Ends Day? When was
Last
this?
Sunday.
Is this a real thing?
On the holiest of holidays, you're going to question my faith?
That is the holiest of holidays. And you know it's National Tight Ends Day when Kyle Pitts has 2 touchdowns.
2.
Well, was this because of the way the tight ends played last Sunday, or you?
No,
or is that
they
really
announced
real-
it before. They pick a
Mhm.
Sunday every year as National Tight Ends Day.
I think it's
Who?
the 3rd Sunday in October, I think
Or
is
the
usually
4th
how-
Sunday in
Football
October.
Or the 4th
Yeah,
Sunday in
I
October?
think like the powers that be.
Yeah,
So it's one of the weeks you can bet
Kittle.
on
Who the hell
how
are the
many.
powers that be?
I don't know.
It's
Like,
Kittle.
Mike Ditka probably. He was the greatest tight end ever. And as a football,
Whoa.
in his
Whoa.
time, at one time he was.
Tony Gonzalez would
second.
like a
Okay,
word.
you're right.
Tony
Yeah.
Gonzalez would like a word.
Jay
so-
Sunholder would like a word. Sonny
But so
Sunholder.
like Mike Ditka or somebody great, Tony
Joey
Gonzalez,
Football.
some of the retired Antonio
Whoa.
Gates get together. They do this, and you can literally bet on National Tight Ends Day
You can.
how many tight end touchdown catches they're going to be. And if you
this
watch
is
the
a
Red
betting
Zone
thing?
channel, they have
Okay,
like a
well, that
ticker
makes all
going.
the sense. That's fine.
and
If
I
it's so by the powers that be, you mean Vegas? Okay, yeah. Well, no, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
See? Yeah, money runs the world anyway. So, obviously, big step up from the tight ends, but it was the guys out in space. It's the yak, like I'd mentioned. You get Shari Patterson his first touchdown because that's exactly what you need to do. You get him the ball in space. He makes 2 moves. He gets vertical. Winston Wright Jr. looked phenomenal. I need to see more of targets when it comes to Yannick Smith. He's done phenomenal when he gets the ball. We need to throw it to him more. I think he only had 4 targets, 1 catch for, I think it was 16 yards, but it's a big 16 yards. I really love the way JDB is finally using the run to create those artificial passing situations, like a boot, like a play action, those kinds of things where you can pull the read option and throw the quick glance. Those kinds of things really not only help a quarterback, it helps the O-line. It gives you a chance to catch your breath because you know you're run blocking, but you're not in a true pass set. So the rush isn't the same way. You're protecting all the parties involved. And I mean, to go for it on 4th and 1, first off, shout out to Coach Harrell. He's always aggressive. We've seen it before. But to have that kind of play call, go under center, fake boot, and then roll to the right and have a double levels concept, that takes a little bit of guts. And I think JDB showed exactly what everybody expected him to be this season last week.
All right, so an off week, Joe, and FAU coming in. We'll get a look at FAU tonight, guys, because they are playing. It's at Boca. It's in Boca. So
It's in Boca. I just don't know who on the
it's
slate
South
they
Florida.
have.
It's South
It's South
Florida.
Florida.
South Florida.
Thank you.
South Florida, by the way, is 3-4, so they're playing to try and win their next 3 so they can get into a bowl, or win 3 out of their next 5 so they can get into a bowl. At the very least, do that. It's kind of now or never for Florida Atlantic because they're 2-5, but they've yet to win in the American 0-3. So they'd have to quite obviously win 4 of their next 5 to be bowl eligible. So it's kind of an interesting game. They won't be mathematically eliminated tonight, but they pretty much will be if they're not eliminated already.
Right.
It will be another blow dealt to them. Now, the Bulls snapped a losing streak last week, beating UAB, and a 2-game slide for FAU entering this AAC clash tonight. By the way, USF on the road favored by 2.5. The total sitting at 49.5, according to what I have here in front of me. So I don't know whether what you should hammer or not hammer. These guys can maybe comment on that. But
Yeah.
Tom Herman, it doesn't seem like there's a lack of talent in the program, but it just hasn't worked down there in Paradise so far with him at the helm.
I'm so glad we're bringing this up. Tom Herman is a shrewd when it comes to things. He's had nothing but talent, and he's succeeded in 2 places for 2 seasons. He won in 1 season. I think they were 8-4 and 9-3 at Houston. All of a sudden, he gets the phone call to take the Texas job. Has 1 good season at Houston. I think they had 8 wins and might have been the Sugar Bowl. And then all of a sudden he fades back into the irrelevancy of a coach. And that is not a shot at him as a person. It is a shot at him as a play caller and as an offensive mind. My high school DC was actually roommates with Tom Herman in college. So I've heard a lot of different things about how he approaches the game and his mindset and those kinds of insights. So I just don't know if he's necessarily built for these kinds of situations. I think he's a phenomenal offensive mind. I just don't think he's like an archetype. I don't think he is a head when it comes to these things. And especially now with this new NIL landscape, you heard Nick Saban say it, who's possibly the greatest college coach ever. It's pretty close to confirmed. You can have a great team when it comes to players, but you have 22 individual contractors, or do you have 22 guys on the same page trying to play the same ball?
All right, be interested to get your guys' take on this here in this segment. We're also going to do Hold My Beer. And this would be, with no disrespect to Blake Harrell, I guess it looks like that even though officially and publicly nothing's been announced as far as a committee and what have you, but the interwebs, the word on the street, the scuttlebutt is that there's already been a little bit of a target with Riley, and that Joe Sloan was going to be contacted this week. So it would seem to me, at least, that those two would be the proverbial leaders in the clubhouse, if you will, right now. Thought it was interesting this week that Skip Holtz's agent was trying to connect him to the Rice job, interestingly enough. But speaking of old school, there's an old school tactic. But, I think when you look at those two guys, for me, Sloan seems to be a little more maybe geared of being a CEO type. Interesting fact on Joe Sloan, his father unfortunately passed, but had this very successful, for lack of a better term, construction company. And Joe was 19 years old, in that range at least, running it while his dad was ill and playing college sports. I mean, Joe's a phenomenal. I don't doubt Garrett Riley is a fine football coach, but I don't know if Garrett Riley's the guy who wants to be the CEO. I think he still very much likes coaching. I could see Joe Sloan coming in and coaching. I could see Joe Sampson coming in. I could see Joe Sloan coming in. I could see Joe Sloan coming in and coaching, yes, the quarterbacks and having some influence on the offense. But, from what I understand, Joe's, again, this is just some of my own sources. Joe already has an offensive coordinator in mind that would come with. And Joe seems to be a little more equipped to be that CEO. Here's the thing, and this is where I think at ECU, and I know Hank Hinton was on repping Team Boneyard on an IGO show yesterday. But here's the thing I think that the NIL folks and all this at East Carolina are hopefully realizing, and that is, yes, the coach will have to be an active participant in helping raise NIL funds, but the coach cannot raise all of the NIL funds. This is not to disparage the work that's being done by the Team Boneyard people, but I'm sure the first questions have been asked with this reaching out to these coaches. What is your NIL budget? The statement can't be, "Oh, we need you to raise NIL." Yeah, I mean, they can't raise the NIL entirely
to
themselves.
hang up the phone.
Yeah, I mean that would limit your pool dramatically, and somebody would tell you, "Oh, I'll raise NIL money," then they would not. All right, so thoughts on that? Those two guys.
I think Sloan's an interesting kind of character to try and dive into because he's done so much with LSU. Obviously, it's been a little bit of, I don't want to say recency bias. He's a great track record heading up to when Brian Kelly named him as the offensive coordinator. But as you alluded to, he's that CEO type of guy. I've seen him do a lot of things from the top-down approach where he understands, I don't have to coach the running backs the same way. I've got great coaches to do it. I don't have to be that guy in the tight ends room. I got great coaches to do it. And you've seen how Nussmeier and Taylor have really had a great connection this year. And I think it is a hat off, especially to Joe. But what you have to look at is last year. You had a Heisman Trophy winner at the helm, and that offense looked like a symposium of everything you wanted it to be. And it comes down to exactly what Sloan knew his strengths were with Daniels. He didn't try and force him into some kind of power run set. He didn't force him to be a true dual threat where he was pulling the ball down in a read option situation. He let the game come to him. He let the quarterback be what the quarterback is. And the offense looks very different this year from what it did last year, which just speaks to his ability to understand what kind of scheme he needs to be in while not getting away from his own identity, but also adapting the team. And that's exactly what you need out of a head coach. Where I worry is Riley is the opposite. I have never seen Garrett Riley do something with less. I've never seen him not have the most talented players in the room. I've never seen him not have some kind of Heisman Trophy front runner in the room at quarterback to be at the helm. So how is he going to handle adversity? How is he going to handle a quarterback battle? You can recruit guys as much as you want, but as we saw in the past, what if they don't pan out? What if they wind up not being what they were supposed to be? I think Sloan has a much better idea of how this college stuff handles itself out and how to go to the next guy and adapt. I just haven't seen it from Riley yet because Clemson and TCU both put him in an unbelievable situation to win.
Yeah, and they really struggled last year at Clemson offensively. They did get better as the year went on, but and now some of that Dabo's philosophy, I don't know, but I mean, Clemson should have a great quarterback in its program, and they don't.
Clemson's been pretty good this year.
Well, no, they have, but they still rely on their defense, and they're not an active shopper in the portal.
No, and they should be the ACC front runner every year.
Absolutely. And they should be an active shopper, one would think, in the portal. That's not Dabo's philosophy. So, to me, if you're talking about equipped for the modern day situation, of the two, just my money, Sloan would get a tick there. Are we boring you, Pilk? Are we boring you here with our radio program?
No,
He stayed up
you're
all
over there
night watching the
yawning.
Bruins get beat.
Yeah, honestly, I could not fall asleep last night. I don't know why. I tossed and turned.
I also
Well,
didn't
this
fall
show
asleep
must
last
be the
night.
cure for that because you look like you're about to nod off over there.
I'm sorry. I didn't get any caffeine this morning.
There's a million excuses. Do you know? You hear that, Joe? A lot of excuses.
Anyways, I agree with you, Patrick.
That's what it
though.
is.
I agree with Patrick.
Joe didn't
The
want to
Sloan
come out.
thing-
Didn't want to go in on his guy.
Yeah.
Joe didn't want to go in on his guy.
I like the
No,
Sloan thing.
Philip's the
and
hardest working guy in that room. I don't ever.
appreciate
He's
it.
Well, now
everywhere.
that room is. In fairness, that room usually contains Pilkington and Buscemi. So I mean, that's like that's like being the skinniest fat guy. Let's be honest.
I wear that moniker proudly.
There you go. But no, Patrick, seriously, I do agree with the Salone thing. The tough thing is, like, he's only been offense coordinator a year and a half, and a lot of people are kind of worried, like, does he have the track record? And to me, this is where you get the home run hires, but this is where you get the bust hires, right? This is like, this could go as Sean McVay, or this could go as Scotty Montgomery, and there's probably not going to be anything in between. But to your guys' point of being the CEO side, yeah, he's definitely got that over Riley, because I think and not that Garrett Riley is his brother, but I think Lincoln is struggling with the CEO job. Maybe their family's just old school ball coaches and not CEOs, whereas the Sloan blood's got a little CEO in it.
Well, and the other thing I will say is this: quarterbacks. This is why I was talking about the Clemson quarterback situation. Look at what Sloan's done tinkering with quarterbacks. I think you've got to have a coach that knows, a head coach in the vein of throwback to Logan and to our colleague Doug Martin, in a way, that knows a little thing about tinkering with quarterbacks and developing them, bringing them along. We had ECU women's basketball media day yesterday. Is that correct, Pilk?
We 2 days ago, Wednesday.
Was it Wednesday?
It was Wednesday.
Yeah, it was Wednesday. I'm sorry. I was gone yesterday, so I just think it's Thursday. All right. So, yes, it was Wednesday. Up now on all of our social media are the interviews from that. Also, Kim McNeil's comments to the media. So all that is available online and available on the social media pages for 94.3 The Game, Facebook and X. All right. Joey Football, Philip the Ref Pilkington, Chris Hughes later on. I'm Patrick Johnson, and we are going to do Hold My Beer next.
Have you noticed he's in his own little happy hour? We're back to the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
This is the Happy Hour program.
Here's the P-Man.
All right, we're going to Pilk. Hang on, Pilk.
You want me to open with Hold My Beer?
And then I was going to ask you, am I throwing to you out of this?
I I mean, I'm
Even
not
though
going
you
to
might record it later?
now. Yeah.
Okay, that's
go
fine.
ahead and-
Yeah, that's fine.
All
Okay.
righty.
Yeah, start with Hold My Beer because we're going to be really quick here. We're going to be
Okay.
uber quick.
Yeah. All right. I should have done that. My mess up. My bad.
Do you have something you need to get off your chest? Get off your chest.
I am not here for rage. I'm here for revenge.
Did your favorite team blow another game?
They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Or is there just something that's driving you crazy?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
It's time to let it all out.
You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
With another edition of Hold My Beer. Hold My Beer.
Okay, who wants to go first on Hold My Beer Friday?
I'll
so
take
what
it.
grinds my gears? All right, Pilk, you're up.
All righty, gentlemen. Hold my beer. People who refuse to miss their turn. If you're in the wrong lane, don't make it everyone else's problem that you don't know where you're going. Just go down, make the next turn, turn around, come back. You know, if you're out maybe in a field in Kansas and the next turn is 14 miles away, okay, I can understand it. In Greenville, if you miss your turn, you're probably, like, it's kind of a grid anyways. It's not quite Manhattan where it's a perfectly laid out grid, but honestly, probably going down to the next road is going to get you to wherever you need to be in the same amount of time anyways. I'm tired of people like, oh my goodness, I need to make a right turn. I'm in the far left lane and about to cause a wreck and making me late because you don't know where you're going. Hold my beer, people who will not miss their turn.
I understand traffic was a bear in Greenville yesterday, like a total nightmare. And then, are you saying people that refuse to miss their turn or people that do miss their turn? I'm a
People
little
who refuse
confused.
to miss their turn. Just, if you're in the wrong lane, just miss it and turn around and come back, or just
you're
make the
saying
next
find an
right
alter-
or left.
Well, look, if
Yeah.
you have your phone, then you should have like Waze or the maps or something on there. So you can always, it'll tell you how to get there. Rarely do you have to do a U-turn in this day and age.
Exactly. And like I said, Greenville, it's one of those where there's 18 different ways to get everywhere in Greenville. You honestly, it's a crapshoot when you're going somewhere anyways. You just have to predict which lights you're going to hit to be right. Yeah. You could be right one day, go the same way, and be totally wrong the next day because you should have went a different way.
I have, in the last few months, driven with both Joey Football and Philip Pilkington, and both are pretty good drivers. If I had to pick the better driver, though, I'm going to go Pilkington. He seemed a little more under control. I could see Joe because Joey Football took a bad turn and led us through somewhere and got us a little lost, which I thought
got us
not really
through
lost.
a detour. We were on Dickinson,
Was it a
and
detour?
they still had the
Was
bridge
it a
out. So
detour?
I took the right on Memorial, and then I went back towards
I
where we
ding
had
you
to
for
get
not
to.
right. I ding you for not knowing there was still a detour. Again, there's
I
an
don't
app.
live there.
There's an app for that.
You know, there's an app for that.
There's an app for that.
There's an app
Yes.
for that.
All right,
enough,
Joey Football. Joey Football, hold my beer.
My hold my beer is simple, and it's not recency bias. It's not because the Yankees happen to be the ones that lost to the Dodgers. I am so sick and tired of the favorites coming out and saying, nobody counted us in. The Dodgers have $1 billion payroll, and you sat up there, Dave Roberts. Nobody thought we could do it. You're the 1 seed, the best record in baseball, $700 million for the Japanese phenom in Shohei Ohtani, a $300 million payroll before that, and you're going to sit there like you were the underdogs? You're the Los Angeles Dodgers. Stop trying to push this narrative. Same thing Brady used to do with the Patriots. Nobody thought we could do it. You are literally the Patriots, the Chiefs right now. Nobody thought we could do it. You're 7-0. Get over it. Be the favorite. Don't be the underdog.
I like it.
Why? What?
Sick of it.
But they were injured all year. They had all these injuries,
They
so
still
they
have the
were
best
not.
record in baseball.
We're the
Yeah,
best
but they had
record
a
in
bunch of-
baseball. You're the 1
What
seed.
happened? Okay.
How the 1 seed's not the underdog ever. Were the Celtics the
That's a good
underdogs
point.
last year as the number 1 in the NBA? No.
No.
Sorry.
I think what happens with Soto now?
I have no idea. Probably
gone.
$1 billion to like the Cubs or something. Just
Because
for you,
Teoscar,
P-man.
they're losing Teoscar Hernandez, so they
They
need a
are.
left fielder, and he's going. And
But
Teoscar
they said
Hernandez will
they-
go to who knows where, and Juan Soto will go to the Dodgers.
No, they had said they're not going to make a run at Soto because the payroll is like already astronomically high, and I don't think he'd want to defer his contract like that. I think he wants the moniker of being the highest paid guy in the league.
They could pay him in expired Pizza Hut coupons like someone else.
I
would
heard
now.
Seattle.
Wait a minute. What was this?
I heard Seattle.
Okay.
I've heard Seattle.
Is Pilk taking Pilk going in on the giggles? Is that what he's doing?
I think he is.
Hey,
Hey, better than
Texas
getting
Rangers
a gift card and all the money's been spent on it already because somebody used it for lunch and then put it back in the stash. But anyway, we're telling tales outside of school, and this is all hearsay. Hearsay, overruled, hearsay.
Objection.
My hold my beer has to do with the American Athletic Conference, guys, because on their reels, I guess ESPN, this might be an ESPN thing, but the American posted it. Matt Berry and Dan Mullen, the next ECU football coach, according to some, I guess we're doing some pre-broadcast itself things that were on some sort of ESPN show or what have you. And so Biff comes out, Biff Poggi, and Biff comes out, and he's delivering pizza. And there's a great look on Biff's face. Somebody reaches for the pizza, and he jerks the pizza away from him.
That's it.
It is. And then the commissioner comes out and is on there. So I get it because it was Tulane, and it was, Charlotte, and they were showcasing the league, so the commissioner was there. That's all cool. But on the reel, you know how you could post, wording on the reel as it's running? You superimpose it in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
They put, "Here comes the legend," talking about Biff Poggi. So unless Biff ate
That's it.
6 or 7 of those pizzas in a pizza eating contest, I don't know if Biff's a legend in anything other than his own mind, because he summarily got stomped 34-3 by Tulane last night.
That's it.
That's it. That's my hold my beer.
That's
I like it. Maybe in the hedge fund world, he's a legend because he does have $1 billion. But other than that,
no, he's got a lot of money.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm with you. Because, Charlotte had, despite losing to Memphis, looked good last week. And it was like, hey, maybe this 14.5 that Tulane's favored by is a little too much. And no. For about half a quarter, it looked okay. And then, whew.
By the way, he was bringing the pizza out without sleeves. Isn't that a health code violation? I mean, because he had the box open. Isn't that a health code violation of some kind?
I don't know anymore. I really don't know anymore.
I will say, man, that they do not get a lot of people at Charlotte games, but I've never seen a sober student ever in the student section at Charlotte games, so they do not know. I'm telling you, man, their little student tailgate, it's small, but they have enough beer for an ECU tailgate, but they've only got like 10 people there.
Small but mighty.
Yeah.
Small but mighty. All right, Joe, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Congrats to your Jets. What are you going to do this weekend? Your teams aren't what will you do, Joe, without the Jets playing, without the Pirates playing? What will you do?
Probably let my heart rate come down and my blood pressure drop.
Okay. Joe will not be with us on Thursday? Is that what I'm reading here?
Yeah,
Joe will not be with us on Thursday?
Shame.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
We'll figure it out.
Might
Corporate
need to bring
sellout.
Teacup. Might need your corporate sellout. We might need to bring Teacup out of retirement. We got to run the ball. And we might bring Teacup out. We'll see. All right.
Feel free to play my clip.
Speaking of Teacup, the Washington Pack are going to be playing tonight on 94.3 The Game. That's the alma mater of one Terrence Copper. Philip the Ref Pilkington will be calling that. And right now, Philip the Ref Pilkington, ahead of Chris Hughes, joining us. We'll give you a 94.3 The Game sports flash update and Pirate report.
And now, the stunning conclusion of the show. It's the P-Man here on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back here on this Get You to the Weekend edition, PJ Show. And we've got our great friend Chris Hughes for the remainder with us here to talk about the high school football games that are being played tonight. It was to be the wrap-up of the regular season, but the state is allowing what would be an 11th game for some, basically an extra week, so teams out west can maybe play. Chris joining us here, CarolinaPreps.com. He's also the host of the K-Town podcast, not Kinston, but Kannapolis, which is wildly successful. So, Chris, how are you, my friend? Great to see you again.
Well, great as always, P-Man. I appreciate you having me on the show. And the weather does not feel like it should be the last game of the regular season, but here we are post-Halloween, the month of November, and it's almost 80 degrees here.
Yeah, it's gorgeous outside, very warm, very nice, and like you say, it's more September-ish than it is November-ish for sure. Uh, how does what has happened out west going to impact the playoffs, particularly for football? I don't guess it really hasn't too much with other sports. I don't know, but how much will this sort of extra week influence things, if at all?
Well, as you mentioned, as you came on, the High School Athletic Association allowed that extra week next week to allow schools to catch up. It was predominantly, focused towards those teams in Western North Carolina to give them that extra week to get their games in without having to create a safety hazard of trying to play 2, 3 games in a 7, 9 game stretch, which is not a smart move, and opens up the higher risk of injuries for the players. So it allows the teams to catch up in the West, and that they did allow teams to schedule an 11th game, which I think is a pretty cool deal because now you've got some teams. I've already seen some on the schedule. Chatham Central and East Columbus, for example, who haven't won a game or maybe only won one game, kind of giving them that that extra game, that +1, that playoff game or so. So that's kind of cool. How it will affect playoffs, I don't think it's going to affect the playoffs because now that they use that RPI system and, you're still going to get the top 64 in each class in, I think that the playoffs will maintain the integrity. It just really gives us a bonus week of football.
Are there any real big contenders out west that, I'm talking like state championship contenders that have had their season thrown into a tailspin?
Maybe not. I think that most of the teams that are quote unquote state championship contenders weren't affected too greatly. Mountain Heritage, for example, though, in the 1A, they were ranked number 2 in my preseason rankings. They are just now getting back on track. And, they're up there in Burnsville, Yancey County.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the areas really hardly affected. But they have been able to start playing games again. But, they're playing their games on Saturdays for the most part because a lot of those Western schools needed to play the games in daylight because the road conditions were so bad to get there. So that's a little different. And, they kind of get back on track tonight playing their big rivalry game against Mitchell County. Other than that, I don't think that there was anyone who maybe lost the potential of making a state championship run out of the West. I think they've all been able to kind of get back on track.
Let's talk about our part of the state, Eastern North Carolina. Specifically out of Pitt County, Aiden Grifton's going for another championship in the conference under Paul Cornwell, and they're just doing what Aiden Grifton does under Paul Cornwell. They've gotten better each week, and they will play Washington tonight. Anybody else that you think could make a little bit of noise out of Pitt County?
Out of Pitt County, I'm not sure. I'm glad you mentioned Aiden Grifton, and also you got to throw out North Pitt. They've been playing a lot of really good football, and that entire conference, and all those schools out there. I'm thinking like West Craven, Southwest Edgecombe, North Pitt, Washington, Aiden Grifton. They've all been beating up on each other, and a lot of them have these 5-5 records. But I think they're all pretty good football teams, and I think we'll start to see that going into the playoffs here in the upcoming weeks. I still like some teams like D.H. Conley. I know they play South Central tonight, and I think D.H. Conley is better than that 4-5 record. That's a team that I've kind of got my eyes on. Coach Connor's got that junior quarterback, and I think it's Samari Cable, I think is his name.
Yeah.
That's a talented underclassman-based team that I think could make a little bit of noise in the playoffs.
Let's talk a little bit about just the rest of the East. There's New Bern, there's Havelock, Jacksonville. Had they kept their quarterback, had he not gone to AG, they'd probably be a legitimate deep in the playoff contender. They're still very good. Who are some of the really good?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who are the really good teams in the East?
Yeah, well, I think Jacksonville's a really good team in the East. Obviously, you got to look at the big monster in the room in the 3A ranks is 71st over there in Fayetteville. They are really strong, and they seem to be peaking at the right time. So if we're going to stick to 3A first, I definitely think 71st would be it. But after that, I think you got to look at Havelock, and I know that they are going to travel up to Greenville tonight to play Rose High School And Havelock, I mean, that has just become a juggernaut this year. I think they're 8-1. Coach Wooten has done a good job. Of course, you got Caleb King there calling the plays, who also worked at Rose. So, that's going to be an interesting game. And they're a little bit different than your typical Havelock team that just seem to bruise you with the running ball. They got a quarterback in Jalen Hewitt who's thrown about 3,100 yards, about 30-some touchdowns. And they've got, in typical Havelock fashion, they got about 20 skill players that can score at really any time. I mean, that is a dynamic team. I know they got that loss to New Bern, who I think New Bern, we shift over to the 4A ranks. I think that they kind of have potential to make some noise in the East, because think about it. New Bern, they're a predominantly run team. They're physical. They do what a lot of schools don't want to do. They make you play physical football for 48 minutes. And sometimes that goes against some of these more finesse-based teams that love to make a living throwing the ball. And year after year, the weather gets a little cooler. I know it ain't cool tonight, but it gets a little bit cooler, and those games get a little bit closer, and that seems to kind of weigh in the favor of New Bern.
Carolina Preps, Chris Hughes. He's the guru. Chris Hughes is with us here. It's a little out of our listening area, but I am interested in Cleveland-Clayton tonight in Johnston County. Is the winner of that, or maybe both, but would the winner of that be poised to make a real run in 4A football?
I'll answer that with a maybe, and that is a big game. That's one of my big games of the night. I think that it's pretty much an even pick'em kind of game. I might give Cleveland the advantage in talent. In fact, I give Cleveland a pretty significant advantage in talent. But Clayton. Let me just start that over. Clayton, I think, has a little bit of a better talent base, but Cleveland, and these schools are only about 2 or 3 miles apart. They haven't lost a regular season football game in 5 years. Scott Riley's done a phenomenal job. They were in a state championship during the COVID year. I mean, they're a really good football team. But Clayton is just full of some dogs, as I like to say it. They've got talent up and down the board. I think that Eastern North Carolina in the 4A landscape is really a two-team battle between Cardinal Gibbons and Rolesville. I think Rolesville has that Charlotte type, Western type talent. They're good across the board. But I think Cleveland or Clayton, but I think more so Clayton. Again, I'm kind of confused because they're right there in the same town. I think Clayton has a chance to make a deep run.
All right. Scott Chadwick, too.
And I hope
coach,
I didn't confuse your listeners.
No, you didn't. I know exactly what you're talking about. Chadwick, too, is their coach. He's done it before.
Oh, man, they're good.
Too. All right. Last thing here. Tarboro. Is it just them and everybody else in the 1A or the 1A East at least?
I think so. I want to give tip to cap to, Wilson Prep and, some of those teams out there. Even Kip Pride. We've never talked about Kip Pride on this show. Man, they've had a good year. There's some teams in 1A football. Perquimans that has played some doggone good football in the East. And I hate to just poo-poo them from the start and say they ain't got a chance. But, if we're being real and, not spreading any propaganda or fake news, I think that it's Tarboro and everybody else.
Chris, great stuff. Where can everybody go to keep up with all of the action? There will not be a selection process this Saturday. It'll be a week from Saturday. So where can everybody go to follow that in a week and keep up with everything during this time of year?
Well, we've kind of slowly, and I've not really put it out there too much, but we have kind of cranked the website back up full steam at Carolina Preps. So by all means, you get on there, check out the team pages. You can go back and look at scores back to the 1950s now. And if you get a hankering to look at South Carolina stuff, we got them too. So by all means, go to carolinapreps.com. We got message boards on there that you can chat with your friends and talk about these teams. And of course, you can watch my shows and all the content and all the other stuff that I'm doing for the Charlotte Observer. Talking Preps with Langston Words and Sam Griner and Gary Richmond. We put a lot of stuff out there as well. So between the Charlotte Observer and Carolina Preps, you can see me about everywhere.
He's the very best. We'll get him back on during the postseason. Chris Hughes, thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, P-Man.
Great to have Chris Hughes with us here. Does a great job. CarolinaPreps.com at Guru Chris Hughes on X. Thanks to him. Thanks to Joe Sampson. We will be back Monday. I'll be live at Williams Arena Minges Coliseum ahead of ECU's season opener against North Carolina Wesleyan as the Pirates open the 24-25 season. We will have a Harrell huddle. That's right. Blake Harrell will be our special guest during the show. We'll catch up with Cy Seymour and a lot more. Maybe Zoki. We may move Zoki to Tuesday. I don't know yet, Pilk, so we'll work on that. Speaking of Pilk, check him out tonight, 6:45, right here on 94.3 The Game at 7 o'clock. He will be on the air with Pampack football as they go for the conference championship, taking on Aiden Grifton out of here in Pitt County. We've got Rose and Havelock also on 102.7 and 94.1 for the respective Rampants and Rams feeds. All right, everybody, have a great and safe weekend. See you in the morning Monday for Talk of the Town on Election Day Eve, and then we'll be live at Minji's 5 o'clock for the Patrick Johnson Show on Monday.